Hello, my name is Jesse Garcia, and I'm the chair of the National LULAC LGBTQ Affairs Committee. I've been involved with LULAC for nearly 15 years. And in these past 15 years, I've worked really hard to build bridges among the Latino community and the LGBTQ community. I started the very first LULAC LGBTQ chapter in Dallas, Texas in 2006, the Dallas Rainbow Council. In that council, we brought together LGBTQ Latinos and allies together to start working on issues that were important to us that really affected both communities. We were talking about poverty, HIV/AIDS, immigration, stuff that both communities needed some answers to on those questions and issues. So along the way, we built up a good agenda to start addressing at state conventions and national conventions to have these conversations that we needed to start to ensure that every generation in the Latino community becomes aware of the needs of the LGBT community that it needs to achieve full equality. Along the way, we started getting new chapters. We've had chapters come up in San Antonio, Corpus Christi, the Rio Grande Valley. We have two in Virginia, and we have one more coming up we actually have two in Puerto Rico, my apologies. And then we have more coming along this year as we increase our board size, the national committee. We, for the first time, have members from California and Ohio, Iowa, that will be represented. And we have other cities in Texas like Lubbock that will be coming on board. And I'm very excited about this year, how our committee has grown. The committee members on this national committee, because currently we have 15 members, are made up of members that are appointed by state directors and national officers. Now, there's three types of committee members. We have the people that are members of LULAC that have worked really hard to start the conversations on LGBT community, the LGBT community's fight for equality. And then we have folks recently joined who are elected officials. We're talking about school board members, state representatives, and then we have the old guard, the historians, the people who were there for the very first time marching for our rights, people that weren't covered in history books because the Latino LGBT advocate wasn't focused on back in the 60s and 70s. But we're taking their advice and we place them on our committee to make sure that they guide us and let us know how it worked for them back then to navigate these two worlds of being Latino and LGBT. I'm very proud of LULAC. In our past 15 years, we worked really hard to have these conversations. But the one thing I'm very proud of is that we've been able to pass many resolutions at the national level that set policy on how we are engaging with the outside world regarding how we stand on LGBTQ equality. Some of the things that we passed along the way were the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, marriage equality, support for it, non-discrimination within the workplace, denouncing bathroom laws, and supporting public accommodation of transgender and non-binary citizens. Again, these are all resolutions that were passed before they actually became law or were decided at the Supreme Court. So we were ahead of the game when we were talking about these resolutions and passing them at our national convention with an almost nearly unanimous vote. We also passed resolutions on opposing convention therapy. We also have opposition to, the mistreatment of transgender people that were seeking asylum at our border, and supporting the Equality Act, supporting our trans military that were being kicked out by the Trump administration. When this was happening, we stood with our trans siblings to ensure that they had our support. We actually had a member on our committee at the time that was in the military service and who was trans and was fighting to keep his job. So it was a very important thing that we passed that year to support our trans siblings. We have a lot of work to do. Just because we pass a resolution doesn't mean that we just walk away from that issue. It's an education process. Another thing that I do, aside from being serving as chair of the national committee that deals with LGBTQ issues, is that I'm a state director for the District of Columbia, and I'm also a youth council sponsor, which means that I get to go every week and mentor kids who are part of LULAC at the high school level. And I have these conversations with them. When we talk about equality across the board, I make sure to introduce the LGBT community and I bring people to come speak about it. So it's sort of like talking the talk and walking the walk by bringing these folks into our classrooms so they could share their journeys, which is the most important thing you can do. When you want people to learn about your struggle, it's important that they hear your journey. I was very afraid to come out. I didn't come out to my family until I was 36 years old. But at the time, I was very politically active, and I was marching on the streets, and I was out to my friends, but not to my family. But as I started coming out to my family, I started going towards my engaging more with my Latino community and having these conversations with the older generation in the Latino community so we could somehow meet in the middle and have a discussion on why homophobia and transphobia and biphobia is bad and how homosexuality is not a bad thing and it should be accepted in the family. We have many great leaders in the Latino community that have become our allies on this fight. Our most recent beautiful public service announcement campaign that came out is the Familia es Familia from one of our advocacy organizations that featured Dolores Huerta, our wonderful labor leader that's still with us. She's still to this day is one of the best things that ever came out of the 60s, in my opinion. She's one of my heroes. And at every LULAC convention that she attends, she makes sure to mention the words LGBTQ and the need to stand by this community. The person that she marched with back in the 60s, Cesar Chavez, if you look in the history books, led our national LGBT rights march back in 1987. He was right up there in front, serving as one of the first uh, top level organizers who decided um, to march along the LGBT community as an ally, as the labor leader, and he was right up there. It was a historic moment, and this was right. This was way before Ellen, Will, and Grace, or Joe Biden uttered the words marriage equality on 60 Minutes. He took that risk of aligning himself with the LGBTQ community in 1987. And that shows you that our Latino generation, our older generations who are in this fight for civil rights are going to be with us because they know that at the end of the day, the LGBT community is a civil rights issue and we need to align ourselves hand in hand because when they win, we win, and all of us win on civil rights. I want to invite you to one, learn more about our LGBTQ cause here at LULAC by following us at LULAC Pride on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you're interested in becoming a member of one of our LULAC councils or starting one in your community, you can always reach out to me, Jesse Garcia, at jessegarcia@lulac.org, or just follow us on the social media accounts and send me a message through there. We're always looking to expand, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. The three goals of the committee are to, one, increase the LULAC presence in the LGBT community. And we are working hard to provide subject matter advice to our national LULAC office so that when they speak on LGBT issues, LGBTQ issues, they do so with respect and with knowledge of what other advocacy organizations within the LGBT community are saying. And last but not least, just to make sure that they know that the, the LGBTQ community knows that it has an ally in LULAC. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.